Cinema employees of Reddit, do you care if people smuggle in their own snacks? If so, how do you handle it? And what was the weirdest thing you caught someone smuggling? I worked at a theater around 1999/2000. Outside food and drink weren't allowed, but so long as I didn't see it, I couldn't stop it. I didn't care if people smuggled food in. Everyone does it, myself included. Most people know the deal is a customer has to pretend to hide it, and the theater staff pretend not to notice. The only time I remember calling someone out was when a guy tried to walk into the theater holding a bag of food from Sklotsky's. He wasn't trying to hide it in any way. When I tore his ticket I told him, "Hey man, outside food and drink aren't allowed, so you can't bring that in the theater." He got really self-righteous and argued with me about it. He thought he had a foolproof argument that I wouldn't be able to counter and I'd have to let him bring his food in. He laid bare all of the reasons I couldn't, in good conscience, keep him from bringing his food into the theater. After considering all of his points, I countered with, "Hey man, outside food and drink aren't allowed, so you can't bring that in the theater." At his wit's end, he stood in front of me and angrily ate the entire sandwich as fast as he could. He was proving a point. This wasn't just about a sandwich. It was about injustice. I'm still not sure what this angry nerd was so upset about. He made eye contact and breathed heavily, seething with rage, while he angrily ate a sandwich that he in no way enjoyed. Once it was all over, he walked away proud of himself for taking a stand against a teenage boy who makes minimum wage. You know, an authority figure. When I was ripping tickets one day, this old man and his grandson came in. Right as they were passing me, the little kid tripped, and some snacks and pop fell out of his jacket. The old man looked at me with a horrified look on his face, and I just laughed and told him I won't say anything if he doesn't. Honestly, if you make it past all of the workers, we don't care. Just throw it out yourself. Our ushers hate having to pick up all the garbage people leave behind, especially when you have to walk by a bunch of garbage cans on your way. Just pick up after yourself for God's sake. Former worker here. Durian fruit. Someone brought in a whole durian fruit and cracked it open, picked at it then smeared it in seats. Apparently still a faint whiff on some seats. Years later. Somebody brought in a coffee and apologized for having outside drinks. I said point blank, I don't get paid enough to care. By far the strangest thing I have ever found when cleaning, besides diapers, condoms, etc., was a bag of moss. Moss. I thought it was weed at first. Nope. Straight up a sandwich baggie full of moss. Edit. To add to this, the only time I've cared about food/drinks was when some dude was taking popcorn bags and drink cups out of the trash and getting refills. It's a Heath Code issue, and fucking disgusting. You would not believe the amount of alcohol that people sneak into the theater. We would find all kinds of airplane bottles of liquor and wine. Even found a full Four Loko that someone had dropped and gave up looking for. I guess it had rolled a few rows down. But the weirdest was when someone managed to successfully sneak in a large pizza and a 6-pack of Bud Light. Couldn't be mad really, just impressed. When I was an usher I didn't give a shit what they brought in, as long as they weren't disruptive and an ass about it. As a patron, I've brought in Taco Bell, rotisserie chickens, Subway, whatever. Worked at the movies for years. No, I never cared if people brought in their own snacks, because movie theater food is highway robbery. However, idiot teenagers would often bring in 6-packs or more of beer, get drunk, spill it everywhere, harass employees, and then leave the cans in the theater for the employees to clean up. I worked as an usher at an IMAX movie theater for a bit and literally not one single soul cares about what you have in your bag, unless it's a gun. The weirdest thing I've found in a movie theater is a bag of cocaine though. Managed a Regal theater for 12 years. Do not care if you smuggle in snacks, so long as you throw them away after the show, and not toss them in the floor. When people were caught, I would again just ask that they throw it away after, and brush it off like no big deal. Someone smuggling in a 6-pack of Coors Light bottles on Valentine's Day to meet someone they had met on the internet. Yes, they got caught. The man got arrested because he had warrants out, and yes, I got to keep the beer. I once saw a family bringing KFC. I would have been outraged had I not smuggled in my own bag of In-N-Out. OMG, I have the best story for this. I was working a shift a few years ago. It was some popular Marvel movie, can't remember what, and there was this woman who looked pregnant. Her boyfriend ordered only drinks with no food, which isn't too uncommon, and they went it. I went in to do the walkthrough once the movie began, and the woman no longer looked pregnant, and they had, I kid you not, a bucket of fucking fried chicken. I couldn't hold my laughter in, and ended up just power walking out as fast as I could, and nearly died laughing. Told my manager, who was very chill, and he talked to them. They did not get kicked out. Was a great night. Worked at a small theater in high school. Had someone try to bring in a microwave bag of popcorn, not even hiding it. We obviously didn't let her in with it, even though she was confused as to why she couldn't have it. Also, our concessions weren't that expensive. A large pop and popcorn was $5. I used to work at the concession stand at a movie theater. Large popcorns got free refills. It was pretty worthless because it meant either getting up mid-movie for a refill or getting popcorn to bring to your car. So most people never took advantage of it. Sometimes though I would see someone come in and pull out a bag from their pocket. They had clearly saved a popcorn bag from a previous trip to the movies. I sure as hell didn't care enough to accuse them of anything. If they want to eat out of a bag with several day-old butter crusted to the side, then I'm not going to be the one to stop them. I used to work at one. I didn't care, so long as it wasn't alcohol. Caught a guy smuggling in a rotisserie chicken and fixings like mashed potatoes. To be fair, it was for a turn, if the king, so I didn't blame him. Former supervisor of a corporate movie theater. I used to not care, but it did bother me when customers would leave bags of wing bones, open containers of ranch all over the floor, etc. If you sneak something in, you sneak it out, because it's so disrespectful to the ushers, mostly teenagers who get paid slightly over minimum wage. We weren't legally allowed to check bags, so if I suspected someone brings something in, we aren't allowed to check. So all we can tell them is please throw it away or put it in your vehicle. Worked at an IMAX theater in the 90s. No food or drink allowed at all. We didn't even have a refreshments counter. Steep stairs, easy to fall in the dark. One entrance, at least one person taking every ticket. Found an empty large pizza box cleaning after the show. Worked at a movie theater in high school. Did not get paid enough to care about people smuggling in snacks. We technically weren't supposed to allow outside snacks, but were never given any guidance from management about how to handle it if someone did bring in snacks. Nor do I remember anyone getting in trouble for not calling people out. I once found an entire large pizza box left in the theater. I saw a guy who clearly had a 2-liter of some sort of soda down his pants. Lots of fast food. Occasionally a grandma would bring in homemade sandwiches in her purse. One time someone brought in a store-bought veggie tray and they did get called out because some people complained because the crunching was making too much noise. Haha. We just asked them to throw it out, but they stayed and watched the rest of the movie. I never cared. I was acting manager. It was an art house cinema in Germany. The only time I had to ask someone to leave was a guy and his friends smoking a joint. They finished it in the car and I let them back in. I worked at a small movie theater in high school and on breaks from college. We were paid barely minimum wage and really didn't care about outside food as long as you weren't obvious with walking in with a coffee from the shop next door. Cool. We don't sell coffee, so it doesn't affect us at all. The absolute weirdest was the person who tried to smuggle soup in. I mean, who causally eats soup while watching a movie. The soup ended up leaking in her purse, and I got screamed out like it was my fault since she wanted soup and we didn't sell soup. Late to this, but oh well. Literally nobody cared if what you were bringing in was reasonable. A bag of chips or a can of soda or whatever is fine, but fuck off with that tray of wings, including the corporate people that would come and visit. Weirdest thing I saw was a dude who managed to smuggle in a carton of eggs and was cracking them directly into his mouth. He got pretty pissed when I told him to stop. Like WTF, that's super messy, and the reason I knew about it in the first place was cause multiple people came out talking about some weirdo eating raw eggs.